Copyright infringement cases in music have been very popular for the last few decades. Cases like Ed Sheeran versus Marvin Gaye caught a lot of eyes, with Marvin Gaye suing Ed Sheeran claiming he ripped off elements of his song. While the similarities in the two songs were undeniable, Ed Sheeran was found not liable. Another big case was Vanilla Ice versus Queen and David Bowie, in which the bass line and chords of Ice Ice Baby were extremely similar to the hit song Under Pressure. Vanilla Ice lost this case and paid an undisclosed amount to the plaintiffs. But what makes a song a copyright infringement case? What rights does copyright include? First off, let's learn more about music culture. All music draws on the repertory of notes, scales, gestures, and other elements available in that tradition. We are beings with limited imagination. To think of something never thought of in music would be near impossible. Even if we did, it would be alienating because we would be complete strangers to it. Just as you speak a certain way in an academic environment, at an office party, or when you're with your friends, the language of music has ways of talking called genres. These genres, just like any other language, have norms and phrases that occur regularly. The metaphor music as a language goes a long way because it can be argued that music is a language in itself, and a significant tradition of music would be borrowing. Borrowing was a way of adding something new to the canon, by taking something that already exists and making it prettier. The furthest traces of borrowing were in the Roman rites, which were the first notated music that survived to this day. Troping is creating musical ideas that are related to earlier canonical chants. Troping was considered a test of compositional skill. Since music was used for utilitarian purposes, troping was a big part of music. Many kinds of troping were all around the world and appreciated until the 18th century. The argument for the necessity of musical copyright comes from the change in what music is. The culture of music includes the borrowing of previous works. However, from the 13th century to the 18th century, when the debates on copyrighted music started, music was not a commodity. It was for the amusement of the public at parties, or provoking feelings in the church. It was not as accessible as it is today, so anything to make music reach out was valuable. In short, the art of music was for the public. From the 18th century to today, the idea of music has changed. It's now not as much a public entertainment as one's expression of self. This crosses with the start of the Romantic era, which was the era of individualism. Since it became an individual expression, the ownership of songs became a necessity. The debate on what elements of a song can be owned and what elements are the result of the genre continues. For copyright infringement, a plaintiff must prove that the defendant copied from their copyrighted work and that they went so far as to constitute improper appropriation. A defendant has their weapons as well. Fair use is a very popular phrase. It looks at whether the portion of the song borrowed from the copyrighted work is critical for both the song that borrowed and the copyrighted song. Fair use also analyzes intent. You can use a song for educational purposes as it is fair use. However, it is not 100% since it's always up to a judge. Another idea is parody. If the defendant used a copyrighted song to mock the art and the artist, it is not a copyright infringement. An example of this would be Drake versus the estate of Jimmy Smith. In his song Jimmy Smith Rap, Jimmy talks about the superiority of jazz over other genres of music. When the estate of Jimmy filed a lawsuit against Drake for sampling it on his song Pound Cake Paris Morton music, the defense was that Drake criticized the original song saying all real music is supreme and was accepted as fair use because it was a parody. Satire, which is using a song to make a commentary on society, is not fair use. Scenes of fair is a scene that must be done in French. An example would be the reveal scene in a murder mystery movie, in which the killer is revealed. In music, it acts the same way. No one can sue you for using power chords in rock or using minor 7 chords in jazz. The order of the chords, however, is a very controversial topic. In Lana Del Rey versus Radiohead, Radiohead sued Lana Del Rey for similarities in the songs Get Free by Lana and Creep by Radiohead. Both songs use the same chord progression and arguably similar vocal melodies. The lawsuit was settled off court, and nevertheless, Radiohead did not invent the chord progression, was not the first people to use it, and definitely not the last. Many more examples of lawsuits could be given just on the reason of similar or same chord progressions that resulted in various ways. A balance between the culture of borrowing and copyright needs to be achieved. Musicians need to be able to borrow more freely by stating their sources, in my opinion. Otherwise, it all comes down to who has better lawyers and music professionals with biased claims in courts, even lawyers acting as music professionals. Have a good time, and always listen to music.